Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to Project Bloom,
Yay.
episode officially 1.
Heck yeah, boy. Let's get it.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about supporting someone whose baby has died. So we're going to go through, what you should and shouldn't say, what you can give people instead of gifts, and just how to respect their boundaries and honor their child. So that's today's episode.
I think a lot of people will get a lot of stuff out of this because it's like we're just straight out of the gate.
Yes.
Like, this has happened obviously for us before, first-hand experience. I know that, like, for me, I wasn't sure of any of this information when you guys lost Lily. So to have this, like, I feel like is just so valuable.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like episode 1 is your Bible. This is where you go back to refresh and to, because it's kind of inevitable. It's going to happen. You're going to have to support someone through this at some point in your life. This will be sort of your launch pad, I guess.
Yeah. Just a good staple of a podcast for sure. All right, cool. So supporting someone who's lost a baby.
Yes. So there are a lot of things you can, there's a lot of things that you expect that you would do. So like, buying flowers or reaching out and having a conversation with them, that in itself can feel very awkward and uncomfortable because you don't know what to say. If you haven't been there before, you don't really know what you're walking into, I guess, or what they're going to be comfortable with. So I suppose the first thing is to really look at what you would do if they had lost their father, for example. What would you do? You wouldn't just sit back and, not say anything. You would be straight into it. I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, if there's anything you need.
As hard as it, or uncomfortable as it makes you feel. It's just a matter of, being there for that person. And
not downplaying it either. So not saying, at least, or, those kinds of things. We'll get to that in a minute. But like, there's no at least. Like, you haven't just lost a baby, you've lost your future with that baby and the life you planned with that baby. So keeping in mind that you're going to be supporting them in not just what you say and maybe what you give to them, but in how you're acting and how you're honoring their child going forward as well. So, sort of keeping all of that in mind when you're, reaching out to them. Don't just leave them to deal with their grief on their own.
Oh, that would be, And a lot of people, I always think about people that don't have people.
Yes.
Because they're out there too,
Or people whose families are like interstate or overseas, or
especially with this COVID situation. Like, there are babies that are being stillborn or miscarriages happening that parents or family members, friends can't be there to support. So maybe we can delve into a little bit of that too, about how to support from distance as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But for those that are experiencing that at the moment and they're not sure what to do, how can someone, what can someone do, really? Like, what's the first initial thing? So they've just gotten the phone call, they've just been told what's happened, like...
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to do is to reach out. That is literally number one. If you do anything, it is to contact them, to let them know that you're thinking of them. You don't have to say anything. You can just send them a heart emoji. For us, we got that from a friend after my parents had called them and let them know what was going on. And honestly, it was like her saying, I love you. I know I'm so far away and I can't be there, but I'm thinking of you. And like, I know this must be really hard. I could just feel all of the words coming out of that one little emoji, and it was magic. And there was no expectation for me to reply. And that was incredible. I even got messages a couple of days later saying, like a really long, beautiful message. At the end, it said, please don't feel like you have to reply to this. That just took so much pressure off me.
Yeah.
And just sort of let me know that someone was thinking of me and was there for me if I needed them, but I don't have to take that up. It's, the ball's in my court then.
Yeah, which for you,
Yes.
like, I feel like you always feel a little bit obligated to follow through on things, you know, or you're the type of person that's so there for other people so often that sometimes it's hard to accept that and just let it be that.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually have a list in my diary of who I need to message back because I am terrible at messaging people. But I'm very much like that. I'm like, 5 days later, I haven't messaged them back and I feel horrible.
Yes.
So having that obligation lifted and knowing that I didn't have to feel guilty about that was, just what I needed.
So that's exactly what you could say to someone.
Yes.
That's exactly that's immediate that you can do right now to let them know that you are there for them and thinking of them.
Yeah. And that is the absolute key is to reach out straight away. Don't leave it, 2 weeks down the track. Reach out as soon as you get the news and if it's too difficult for you to put into words, just put a heart. Yeah. Honestly, it will make the biggest difference.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things to say, what do we avoid saying?
Yes.
Because I know that you experienced a lot of things that were like, borderline, like why do people think that way or think that it's okay to say these things, like or they have such good intentions
and it just comes out wrong.
Yes. So let's talk about that. What do we avoid saying?
So there's a couple of rules when you're thinking about what not to say, and the very first one is not to say anything that starts with at least. That literally just pulls everything down and says your grief is not
substantial or meaningful.
So there was a lot of, at least you carried her for 20 weeks or, at least you got to hold her, or like that doesn't make it any better. And the other thing is not to say, it happened for a reason, or
everything happens for a reason,
because in that state, like, sure, that might be your, that's philosophy. How you walk through life. But in that moment for those parents, it's more, but there was no reason for this. Can you tell me what the reason was? Like, why on earth would anyone have to go through this? Or, that might come back around and they think, everything does happen for a reason. But right now in the moment, it's just not.
No.
Another thing that you should try to avoid saying is, well, I mean, we touched on at least, but at least you have other children at home, or at least you can try again. You can have more, like, don't worry, you're young. None of that. Like, it's still a baby. And if they had the baby and they lost them at 2 years old, would you say at least you've got another child at home? Or like it just comes across as insensitive. And I know sometimes it comes from the most purest place, but try and keep in mind that you don't want to minimize their loss. What was another one that we got? We had there was a lot of comments where, Hayden and I just looked at each other and we're like, just don't react to that. Like, that did not come out how they meant it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think if you have the right intentions and if you're not sure what to say, to keep it simple. And just remember that key thing. If it has at least, don't say it.
That's a great rule of thumb. I think for anything, really. Because, when you're minimizing what that impact, and we all handle things differently as well. So if you were to say, at least you're handling it really well. Yeah. Well,
how do you know?
Like, you don't know what it's like when I go to bed. Yes. Or like when it's a special day, like their birthday, or like Christmas Day, like,
unless you're there living it, you don't know. Like, you don't know and everyone goes through grief differently. So like how I reacted to our grief will be very different to how like another lady who had the exact same experience lost her child, and how she would go through her journey of grief. So yeah, I think that's really important to keep in mind, is that everyone's going to be different in
Yes.
how they're experiencing it. And just like, if you're coming from a place of you've been there and you've had a miscarriage and someone you know has had a miscarriage, you still can't compare that. You can say like, I've been there before, and sort of let them in on your story, but you won't understand exactly how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And I am very mindful of that all the time when I reach out to people, because it is unimaginable what you're going through, what they're going through. So yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I don't know if you got it or not, but I feel like a lot of people would start comparing, and I think comparing is just a natural reaction. It's what we do. But whether or not you share that comparison, or like try to say, oh, you'll be fine another few weeks, and like when it happened to me, this is how long it took for me to get over something, or I think once again that's such good intentions, and that's coming from a place of your own grief too.
Yeah.
But like, did you ever get, for example, like people comparing miscarriages to stillbirths? Like, or like, at least it wasn't further along when you lost her. Or did you get anything like that?
Yeah, we did. We had some very insensitive comments around, you know, why can't you just move on? Why can't you just get over it? And then, you know, a couple of years later they had a miscarriage, and then they compared it back to what we went through. And I was like, look, I know where you're coming from. I know you've experienced loss too. We're all lost parents, but don't compare yours to ours. Like, they are still, we're both, you know, grieving differently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how far along in a pregnancy you are, it's still going to be the biggest life-altering, you know, thing that's ever happened to you. It's going to be the most unimaginable pain. And no matter what someone says, it's not going to take the pain away. You're sort of just there for the support, to know that they have that village behind you. You're not there to minimize their pain or to compare your story. I think that's, something to remember, I guess. That, I think it's really hard thinking, like even yourself as a lost parent, you sort of say, but you would think the same. Like, you would think, oh, I only lost them at 8 weeks. Like, they've lost them at 40. It doesn't matter.
No.
It does not matter.
No. Don't compare yourself to other parents too. Oh my God. Yes.
So it's not just
that's
from
great
coming
advice.
from community. It's coming from yourself as well.
Yeah.
Which, I think you go through a lot of that. You go through a lot of comparing when you're in those early stages. So, taking the pressure off yourself there as well. You can't compare yourself to anything really. We're all on our own journeys, exactly.
But we can take solace in knowing that the people that have reached out are gonna be there. 100%. Well, and I suppose going from that and sort of talking about reactions, because you were saying like Hayden and I would sort of just go, oh, okay, moving on. A lot of people wouldn't react that way, or a lot of, like, depending, once again, we all grieve differently. There may be anger associated, or like, and I just think, like, in terms of setting boundaries, like each person would have their own, depending on the grief level. Maybe you need family there all the time, but maybe you don't. So for families that do need that space, like, what would your advice be for those parents?
I think one of the key things I've sort of read about since losing Lily is I sort of use it with our daughter now, trying to express her feelings of, like, you know, when she's uncomfortable, when she's unhappy. I feel this when you do this. So, for example, like, when you say that, I feel like you're comparing your loss, and that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So like having the, I feel when is a really good strategy to get your emotions across without making it feel like you're taking a dig at someone.
Yeah.
Because I know that when you're emotional, a lot of that stuff can just blurt out, you know. So especially if you're coming from a place of like, if someone said something really triggering that's making you really angry, taking that breath and stepping back and saying those words will get it across clearly, and there will be no confusion. But also from a boundary perspective, from like visitors and things like that, I think it's really important for bereaved families to have that one person. So for example, in our family, it was Hayden, and he would be the person you message. I didn't want people messaging me. I was dealing with everything myself. So if they wanted to come and visit, they would message him, and he would say, how do you feel about having this person over right now? I don't want them here. Okay, cool. No, I'll tell them. And they did not take offense, because we asked them to have that boundary, to message us beforehand, or to, if they were downtown, to let us know, and we could tell them if we needed something, because going out was just, I was not going out of my house, to be honest. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think having those boundaries set initially, like right from the get-go, as soon as you're home, if you want to come over, please message me. If someone's rocked up at your door, just say, I'm not up for a visit right now. Or get, for example, Hayden to go to the door and say, she's just sleeping. She's just resting. Can you come back another time? This is my phone number if you want a message. Just so they sort of get that picture, because you do get people knocking on the door, dropping off food, dropping off flowers. So, and it can be really anxiety inducing answering the front door.
Oh, yeah.
And expecting that someone's going to walk into your house and, catch you off guard. So, set those boundaries early. And I guess, like from a family's perspective, like honor those boundaries.
Yeah.
Don't overstep and, just drop by, because half the time it's really hard for them to get out of bed.
100%.
And we used to have, because Lily was born in the morning, we would lay in bed until the time that, like from the time that she was here until the time that she died, we would lay in bed and just think about her. And so if we had that space interrupted, it was really emotional for us. And it was like not the start to the day that we wanted, I guess. So honor those rituals that the parents are putting in place that you don't even know about.
Yes. And like speaking from experience of being a family member, I think that I can imagine, and I know it's very hard to not just want to be, because all I wanted to do was just be around you guys all the time and just loving on you guys all the time. But I knew like it would be such overwhelm, because I knew everyone else wanted to do the exact same thing for you guys too. We just wanted to shower you guys in love.
And I think that's an important thing too, is that from your perspective, you don't want to be alone either. Like you want to be around people who have been through that experience. Like you were there in the room with us. So, for you going home, that's big. For my parents going home and being alone and not knowing what to do or when to come over, that was big.
Yes.
So I think knowing that it's not just the bereaved family that's being impacted, it's the extended family as well. Just really, I don't know, tuning into that and knowing that it's okay to reach out to I feel like, your parents didn't want to message my parents didn't want to message yours. So they would, they would message, but they wouldn't visit and go and see each other, because they wanted to give them space to grieve as well. So I think you need to figure out what kind of grief journey they're on. So whether they want visitors, whether they want to be alone. And just getting that information from the person that you're thinking about. So, for example, you and my sister, whether you guys wanted to meet up every day, or whether you both needed space from one another, or whether you just wanted to be around your family. I think it's really important for the family to have that support as well.
And to set their own boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some people want to just get up and keep going and do everything, whereas other people just want to sit in their grief and just be alone, and that's okay too. Like, as long as when you need it, you're reaching out for help.
Yes, 100%. I think like with the boundaries too, I think it's also day by day.
Yes.
So
very much so.
You're like, when you're in that amount of grief, I feel like you're living almost minute by minute.
Yeah.
Like, can I get through this next minute and be okay?
Exactly.
You know? And I think that means that if you're living so moment by moment, that your emotions and feelings change.
Yeah.
And so you may set one boundary one day and be totally okay with it the next day.
Yes.
And then you might flip that again and reset that boundary, or make your boundaries heavier.
Yeah.
Like, and for family members supporting someone going through that, I feel like you need to be okay with day by day as well.
With the changes.
Your support.
Yeah. One day they, like, you know, grief sort of ebbs and flows. So it's going to feel heavier at certain times. It's going to, like for us, it was the morning, obviously, because that's when we lost her. But also going to bed was hard.
Yeah.
So we would have people over for dinner and we'd want them to stay that little bit longer, you know? So we would say, don't rush off. You're okay to stay if you just want to sit.
Yeah.
So I think having the knowledge that they are going to change, and you can touch base with them and ask them, what's your boundary? How do you feel about this right now? Or have that, you know, like I was saying with Hayden, like having that one person to contact and be like, is this okay now, or you still need some time?
Yeah.
That's totally fine to ask. Like, as long as you're not taking offense and talking behind their back about, you know, oh, they didn't want to see me. And I feel, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to see, you know, I wouldn't want to see anyone in the first couple of weeks anyways. So, other than direct family, I think is,
totally.
Yeah.
That open communication, so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, in terms of people, like family members helping parents, what's something they can do besides words? What's something they can physically, like, tangibly do for someone?
So a lot of people lean straight towards flowers, which is nice and great. We ended up with
you guys, it was like a florist shop.
It was a florist shop.
And it was such a testament to the amount of people that love you and care about you.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Honestly, like, it could go one of two ways. So it could either be too overwhelming and you just end up palming off the flowers, or it could be nice and it, you know, gets you into that place where you're maintaining them. I think it took us like half an hour a day to fill the water, trim all the stems. Like,
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that was a lot. But the other thing to realize too is that flowers do degrade. They do die. They're not something that stick around for a long time. So what do you do with the flowers when they're gone? Like, you want to cling on to everything that is given to you for your child. So what do you do with them? Like, you can't, there's only so much you can press. Or, you know, like, so I think it's a really good idea to get them like a keepsake or a memento or something like that, that's quite small, that they can keep, not so much out in sight if they don't want to, but just with them. And that's sort of where our care packages come in, is where, you know, you can make them what you want. You can gift them what is practical in that moment. So, you know, if they're struggling to find things to do, and they want to keep busy, we have a keeping busy box. Like, you know, they can do some coloring and some planting of like actual keeping flowers. Like, we've got, you know, things that will help them with their morning routine. So because after loss, you're still going through postpartum, all those changes, and you don't have a routine. You probably won't even go and shower that day. So it's nice to have those little things that you can do for yourself to make yourself feel fresh and good. So there's lots of little, you know, steps that you can take, little things that you can relate into how they're feeling and how they're going on their journey. But then stepping up from gift giving, there's services you can put in place that will really help. So if they're in the hospital for an extended period of time, you can look into, if they haven't already, like a dog sitter, or someone to walk the dogs, or a babysitter for the other children. Like, what are they doing with the kids that are at home? It's just been sprung on them at an ultrasound that they need to go into the hospital. Like, what are they going to do? Offering to, if family has them, offering to take the kids down to the park, or to a movie or something where that family can also have time to be there and to grieve. And the other thing that's really good is setting up like a meal train sort of thing, or like they do heaps of stuff now. They've got YouFoods and HelloFresh and stuff like that. So but stuff that they don't necessarily have to do. It's all pre-made and done.
Yes.
What was another one? The lawns and things like that as well.
Maintaining.
Like if you're getting flown to Sydney and you've got to stay there with a baby in the NICU, for example, like you're gone for like maybe 2 weeks plus. So those lawns are going to get really overgrown.
Especially
really
this
quickly.
rain and this sunshine.
Like, just grows.
Yes.
And you don't want them to sort of have that to come back to. You want it to just be, get their permission first, of course. But stuff like that, practical stuff that you can get in and do just to help them. Hire a cleaner. So that can come at any point in the journey. It doesn't have to be straight away. And if they feel like they can feel like it's a bit of an invasion of space. So just say to them, instead of asking, say, I would like to get you a cleaner. She's available this day every fortnight. Let's go for coffee or go for a walk, or, get them out of the house or just in the backyard while the lady's coming in and cleaning, or the gentleman's cleaning. Just then they've got that one thing less that they have to think about.
100%.
So with all of that, it's very much about getting permission, but you try not to ask, because there's a very good chance they'll just say, no, it's okay. Whereas if you're saying, I would like to do this, please let me, they have this and this, that's sort of like, it's set in stone if you're ready.
If you have everything planned out and ready to go, you just need them to say yes, then it'll streamline everything.
Exactly.
Because the more, if you say to them like, oh, what do you think about this service? What's going through their head is like, maybe I'm like, oh, what a burden. I'm such a burden that they need to organize this. Or they think, oh, no, it's fine. I can live like this.
Yes, I can do it on my own.
With the chaos happening. Or I feel like, if you just had everything streamlined, ready to go, it's so much easier to say yes. Because the whole point of it is peace of mind.
Exactly.
Like,
they don't have to think about
anything. Yes. So, the more you plan ahead.
It's the same with meals. Like, don't say to them, would you like me, like, can I come and drop off a meal to you? When would you like it? What do you want? You say, I have a lasagna. I'm coming around either this day or this day. What would work better for you? Or, are you out of snacks? I'm at the shops. Can I grab you a couple of things to drop at your door? So, sort of not respecting their boundaries, but also not making them have to think about it.
Yes.
And just be like, that's so great, thank you.
Like if they have to organize it and plan it themselves, like,
it's too much.
100%. I totally get that.